If you're not growing, you're dying.
Oh, so we're pivoting into a fitness channel now, Brandon. Alright, keep going, mate. What's going on today?
In today's video, we're going to talk about growth marketing, specifically what it is and why the experimental mindset matters so much in it. Then we're going to get into specific tactics that you can use to do growth marketing for your own business.
Yeah, no protein powder required. Just experiment with some anabolic.
And before my friend gives you some really terrible advice, let me introduce myself. My name's Brandon. This is Kenny. He is the voice in the sky, my friend and video editor, and he's here to learn just like you.
Now, I find the definition of growth marketing on Iterable, and let me know how this sounds. Many marketers refer to themselves as growth marketers, but what does that term even mean? It's an approach to attracting, engaging, and retaining customers that focused on a relentless experimentation and an intense focus on the unique, changing motives and preferences of your customers.
Okay, wow, that's actually pretty perfect and surprisingly close to our writing style. No comments, thank you for watching. Don't forget to smash your brain into that like button, and don't forget to tickle the bell to get notified when new videos go live.
Oh, I love tickling that bell, but I still have questions, Brendan. Like, doesn't this all seem kind of obvious? Like, how are you going to get better at marketing if you just do the same thing and expect different results?
Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going then. You'd actually be surprised. Growth marketing is pretty shamelessly a buzzword, but it's a buzzword that really needs to exist. It's common to start marketing a product and get your emails and your ads and your social media perfect, and then just let it sit for years without actually making big changes.
Okay, but won't that result in slow brand decline?
Yeah, with enough time, it definitely would. But here's the thing. It's common to experiment and hustle while you're getting started because you're not going to know exactly what's going to work. But the very minute you get things really working, there's a temptation. And that temptation is to stop growing and changing. And it becomes really serious after a while, either through your own complacency if you're a solopreneur or through change avoidant politics in bigger companies.
But I always thought it was the term software companies used because they wanted to get a bunch of users really quickly.
It was actually, but these days when you hear growth marketing, it's about not getting stuck in the mud by doing things the same way over and over again. So it's kind of what we're doing with the channel as a whole here, folks.
So this sounds exactly like the experimental marketing thing you're always on about.
Exactly. And when I say experimental marketing, I mean that it's important to approach marketing the same way that scientists do with, well, science. That is, you form a hypothesis and you make an experiment to test it, you run the experiment, you analyze the results.
That makes sense, but how do you do that with growth marketing though?
So when it comes to growth marketing, what you want to do is put a special emphasis on answering very specific questions. And here's a quick list for you. How do you acquire customers? How do you get them to purchase? How do you retain them and get them to purchase again? How do you maximize sales per customer?
But that just sounds like regular marketing though.
It kind of does, doesn't it? But with growth marketing, the idea is to specifically focus on doing each of these better time after time. So it's more like how do we acquire customers more efficiently? How do we get them to purchase more efficiently? How do we retain them and get them to purchase again more reliably? How do we maximize sales per customer by as much as possible?
Okay, you're asking a lot of important questions there, but how do you even measure this stuff? You can't just run experiments unless you can measure results.
Respectively, what you would have to do is you take customer acquisition cost, conversion rate, retention rate, and lifetime customer value.
So what you're saying, Brandon, is you're telling people to optimize one or more of these at a time. And if you keep doing that, you'll ultimately grow the business and make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a good way of keeping your business from falling into, a sense of disrepair. Because if you don't experiment and change over time, acquiring customers, getting them to buy, keeping them on board for future purchases, and convincing them to actually spend more will just get harder and harder. And if you're not proactive, by the time you notice, well...
It's too late, right?
Well, it can be, or at least it's an uphill battle, especially for small businesses. If you want to know more about how this works, you can check that out on our channel. Link's going to be somewhere up here.
It makes total sense. As we've been experimenting for years, we started writing essays on weirdmarketingtales.com. That's where we first started. We then moved those into video essays, which some of them did do quite well, but then we pivoted into educational content for various reasons, which suits us way more, and it will definitely be a growth marketing strategy. Well, at least we have our fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, definitely. That puts marketing experiments in perspective when you put it that way, because it's not as neat as a science experiment in a textbook. Really, you only have one true way of running experiments in marketing, and that's A/B tests. And the rest basically boils down to try stuff, observe what happens, and do your best to figure out X cause had Y effect.
So tell me about this solid way of running a true experiment.
So A/B testing is when you take two versions of something and you see which one gets a better result. You can run different ads to the same audience, or have two different landing pages, two versions of an email, etc. You just change one thing at a time between these two things and run the experiment.
Oh, so kind of like if I give you a red apple or a green apple and potentially change the color over time. See which one does better, right?
Well, if you're working on selling apples, yeah, you actually could use that to do an A/B test.
But what I'm getting at is that which one gets more customers to purchase, which one leads to more sales per order, and which one is more likely to make older customers purchase again. That kind of thing. Like, it's like a whole Mr. Beast testing 110 thumbnails for one video, just trying to nail exactly the target demographic and the viewer count he wants from it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The concept of A/B testing is actually really flexible, and you can and should use it as often as you can.
Exactly. If you're not getting the results, thumbnail, title, advert, change it. It doesn't always work though, A/B testing though, right?
No, it doesn't. It takes time to run these experiments, and sometimes you just don't have that time. And sometimes you need to test multiple things it up, which is like throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And when you do that, often out of necessity and resource limitation, it's not nearly as pure as A/B testing, but you can still act like a scientist in some way.
Yeah, we're not talking about physically throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks like the Apple analogy. We're talking about metaphorically here. But like taking notes, tracking performance numbers, and coming up with plausible explanations for why certain things happened the way they did.
Yeah, kind of like that. But here's an example. Let's say I'm getting pressure from higher up in my organization, or like I really need to make sales to pay the bills. So I run an email marketing, text message marketing campaign, and online ads. Now I can track reasonably well who came from what source. And I can track reasonably well how customers come from each source, how the customers that come from each source behave. And I can track how much I spent on each of these different marketing channels.
But you can never be 100% sure who came from what, so it's not like a pure test.
That's right, but sometimes it's necessary to do things that way and still try to figure out what's meaningfully impacting acquisition costs and conversion rate and all that other stuff that we talk about.
This is all really good context, but can you give me some more specific growth marketing ideas that we haven't covered in our other videos, or that don't fall into the A/B testing and general experimentation?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So 4 things that come to mind for me are nurture programs, onboarding, loyalty programs, and referrals.
So, starting with number 1, nurture programs. What's that all about?
Yeah, so you know how when you get immediately hit with a sales pitch, you just kind of zone the whole thing out?
Yeah, but I do that in general conversation anyway, Brandon. What's different?
Okay, aside from that tendency of yours, it's just generally too early for a lot of people to get sales pitches. Companies have to prove themselves before they can make that pitch. That's what nurturing is all about. And you can do this with social media or content marketing or email, but the point is you first need to prove to people that your products or your services are worth buying in the first place.
It sounds like this is a way to get people's attention and to get their attention to interest or maybe even decision. Sales funnel, guys, go watch that video. It's a huge deal.
Yes, and ultimately you want to get them to action, which, by the way, everybody, this is a callback to our sales funnel video up here, probably. It's a really important concept if you want to learn more about this.
It's just so lovely seeing marketing terms come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all end up building on each other. That's actually a subtle nurture right there. If you, I don't know if you caught it. People might not be ready to just subscribe to the channel outright. But anyway, a lot of this ultimately comes down to getting people to purchase. And you can A/B test all sorts of different ways to do nurturing. A lot of growth marketing takes place after the purchase, which is where these other 3 tactics will start to come in.
So, first one first, onboarding. Go on.
Okay, so when it comes to onboarding, people either have to make a purchase or do something with some level of commitment, like turn over their email address or make an account on a website.
So that's overlapping with nurture, clearly.
It kind of does, yeah. Pre-purchase forms of onboarding definitely do overlap with nurture, but you've also got post-purchase onboarding. So with pre-purchase, I might send people emails saying, here's some valuable stuff that you need to know before you buy my course, and and learn so much more. But with post-purchase, say for something that's like a complex coffee machine, I can just start sending people guides on how to make fancy drinks with the machinery that they bought and things of that nature.
So the point of the last one is being able to help people get the most out of their purchase.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what that does is it helps a ton with loyalty and ultimately with getting referrals.
Honestly, I have a real life experience of this. A coffee company that I buy beans from used to put like an A5/A6 card inside the packaging, explaining what the coffee is, where it's from, and so on. But now it's just a QR code. So I feel less connected to the coffee and therefore the company just by a simple change. But back to it. You mentioned something about loyalty programs, right?
Yeah, so loyalty programs, what they do is they give you different ways that you can keep people coming back to you. Early access to new products, coupons and discounts, all kinds of things like that. Okay, for example, like we've got a major retail chain around here called Kohl's. And what they do is they give you Kohl's cash. It can only be spent at Kohl's and on certain dates too. It's really effective at getting people back in the stores to purchase more stuff.
And I hate to admit it, but I get those coupons in the post and via email, like on birthdays. And it doesn't always work because 10% is not much an incentive, but they keep me aware of their existence, and that's important.
Yeah, it's been enough to get me back in Lowe's, I can tell you that. But you'll see brands often do complex loyalty programs with a point system, and that can work too, don't get me wrong. But loyalty programs, they don't have to be complicated. All you really need is some way to keep in touch and some excuse to reach out that gives old customers special privilege. And then that takes us over to referrals.
AKA word of mouth. You want to get people talking about your business, don't you, Brandon?
Well, ideally, that's what you want, because no marketing that you or I could ever do is going to be as good as word of mouth. It's just the truth. But marketers can influence referrals by giving customers an incentive to refer their friends. For example, I know that the personal finance tool Personal Capital was giving people $20 to anybody who could get a friend to sign up to their tool. It's a free app too. I don't know if they're still running the promotion, but I bet it was really effective at getting the app out there.
And it's time to just go back in time for a second. Just talk about Farmville, inviting your friends to play the game, visit your farm, get some free coins, get a cow, whatever it was. The incentive is free and it's useful.
Yeah, and around the same time, like Dropbox was doing a thing too, where they gave people like 200 megabytes of free storage. This was over 10 years ago. It was a big deal at the time. But anyway, it was effective at getting people to refer their friends over to the service, especially when I was in college, because we were all broke and we started to need cloud storage because it was new. So, Kenny, as we wrap this one up, why don't you tell me, what do you think the basic essence of growth marketing is?
So it sounds like proactively experimenting and improving over time, like specifically to win new customers, keep the old customers coming back, and to max out sales per customer.
That's right. And everything that we talked about toward the end, which is like loyalty programs, referrals, onboarding, and nurturing, those are just other ways to do that.
The main thing is to not get complacent and stuck in the mud.
Exactly. Even when things are good, you've got to keep changing, at least on a small scale, so that they stay that way. Maintenance is really, really important when it comes to marketing.
But as you're likely aware, we have further content on this subject in our Mastering Digital Marketing playlist, which you can find somewhere around us.
And if there's anything else that we've missed, anything that you want us to cover or expand upon more, then please just let us know down there in the comments section. We will read every single one of the comments that come in and answer any of the questions that you send in.
And as always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, give us a like, goes a long way. Smash your brain to that subscribe button. And if you're a real fan, and I know you want to be, tickle that notification bell when the next video goes live.